Hello again. I am back with another commentary. It is Friday, August 14th of 2020, and as I was perusing the news yesterday, I came across an article by a gentleman named Peter Dockrell. The title of the article is interesting. Pandemic conspiracies and rumors have killed over 800 people, study shows. Now, I'm not going to get into studies. I think studies and research and polls are an awful lot the same. You get the right person to do the right research, the right person to do the right study, you get the right person to do the right poll, and you can get the desired outcome from that study or from that poll or from that research. Now, that doesn't mean all research is bad. That doesn't mean that every single time research is done, it's automatically, intrinsically of no worth just because it's research or it's a study or it's a poll. But, as I say so many times, everybody has an agenda and everybody has a bias. In this case, and I'm going to start with the opening paragraph here in just a second. In this case, we have an example of just how severe this problem has become in the world today. And the reason that I say that it's severe is that now we are seeing that researchers and pollsters and people doing studies and whatnot are intentionally bringing in their bias, intentionally bringing in their presuppositions, intentionally bringing in their leanings, if you will, in hopes of using their research solely to discredit a particular position. And that's really part and parcel of why you hear me talk often about resisting legacy media, mainstream media, even Fox News, which everybody must assume, oh, well, Todd, you seem to be relatively conservative, so you must be a Fox News person. It gets thrown at me all the time. I'm not. There was a day where I watched a lot of Fox News. I tend not to now, and there's a reason for that one. I recognize the bias. I recognize the pandering. Worse, I recognize the pandering and the bias and the fact that they're still caving in a lot of societal and social issues. And so I'm like, no. And that's really what this article does. So I'm going to start off with Peter's opening line, and he says, after that really wonderful title, Pandemic Conspiracies and Rumors. And I mean, let's just be honest, that is set up as a scare statement. It is meant to invoke in you immediately some idea of, okay, we're going to really lay out an exposure and argument against conspiracy theories. And so pandemic conspiracies and rumors have killed over 800 people, study shows. So here we go. Here's the opening paragraph. Right now, a global infection is spreading from person to person, leading many to sickness and even death. We are not talking about the coronavirus, but it goes hand in hand with this other insidious plague. Now, first of all, that's inflammatory language. That is absolutely designed to set up your emotional response mechanisms right away. It's going to capture your attention. It's going to do a couple of things. One, anybody who is all on board with every single thing that's being done in response to COVID-19 is going to get angry immediately. And there's a reason. Because they already believe in their mind that none of this is fabricated in any way. None of this is government overreach. None of this is stripping of human rights. None of this is stripping of constitutional rights, natural rights of man. None of that. It's all, man, bam. You just have to do these things because this is what's right. And so they're going to hear that title and they're going to hear that opening paragraph and they're going to be all over it because they've bought into the idea that COVID-19 is the worst pandemic the modern world has seen since the Spanish flu. Is it though? And hear me, not denying, and I'll say this a million times in my life, probably before November, COVID-19 is a real virus. People are getting sick. People are even dying. But is it the type of pandemic or the type of virus that we should have been A, declared a pandemic, and B, is it really as deadly as everybody says it is? Now, the other thing that it's going to do is it's going to invoke a very angry response from the people out there who are totally against the idea that COVID-19 is even real. I mean, there are people out there who just, oh, there is no such thing as COVID-19, and oh, it's caused by excuse me, whatever the new cell phone towers are that are going up. 5G, yeah, 5G is causing this. It's getting into your brains and your lungs, and it's causing these things. So those people are going to be inflamed. So this article, factual article, is actually more an opinion piece, and you can tell that from the title to the opening paragraph. So his second paragraph says the global spread in question is what researchers call an infodemic, an oversupply of information carrying with it fake news, rumors, and conspiracy theories that put people in harm's way, bad ideas, and poor advice shared amongst friends, family, and total strangers alike. So first of all, notice the coining of the phrase infodemic. Right now, we have we're in a pandemic, and people are being scared with the phrase pandemic. So we're going to use another scare phrase, infodemic. So now information is dangerous. You see, and it's not a very subtle shift, but it's subtle in how it's used. An infodemic. And he even has a link in there that will take you to another article about what an infodemic is. And it's from the same Science Alert journal, and that's from the 25th of May. It says 5 ways you can help stop the coronavirus infodemic that's hurting everyone. So there's this juxtaposition, if you will, where we're being told to be scared of this pandemic, and now we have an infodemic, which is like information pandemic, which is even more dangerous. And notice too that the following line is, and an oversupply of information. An oversupply of information. Look, there's no argument that the world today has more information available at the fingertips of millions upon millions upon millions, billions of people. There is definitely a larger supply of information now than there was 6,000 years ago, or even 2,000 years ago. However, I don't know that oversupply is right. One, that's one argument. The second argument that I'm going to make is in carrying with it fake news, rumors, and conspiracy theories that put people in harm's way. Bad ideas, poor advice shared amongst friends, family, and total strangers. So, an oversupply of information automatically is going to lead to all of these things. And I think there's some truth to that. I think if you have something like a genuinely dangerous disease or bacterial infection, let's consider something like a MRSA, or the flesh-eating streptococci that are out there. And you have 5,000 people all hanging out with 500 people that have that streptococcal flesh-eating bacteria. Chances are that the more they rub up to against one another, the more that infection is going to spread. So, yes, with the vast amount of information that's out there, there's going to inevitably be misinformation. Some of it is going to be just kind of way out there to the extreme. But the goal of this essay, this opinion piece, because that's what this is really is. The goal of this opinion piece is to set up in people's minds that anyone who disagrees with anything that's being done by way of controlling COVID-19 in the world, but especially in the Western world, is part of that fake news, rumors, and conspiracy theory crowd. It's just what it is. That's what they're trying to do. If you dare to express any kind of resignation, if you will, or hesitancy to trust the government on these measures, you're part of this infodemic problem. That's you. And so here's where the opinion piece part of it gets really deep. In theory, an infodemic could attach to anything. This time it's COVID-19, and it's a hugely serious problem that amplifies and extends the already grave dangers of the coronavirus crisis. So there again, you see what they're building towards here. All of this information, this infodemic, is making coronavirus worse. This is such a deadly virus that any information out there that runs counter to the mainstream or legacy media information, the governmental information that's out there, is making this more dangerous. So in a new study, and there's a link to the study, an international team of infectious disease researchers scoured social media and news websites to monitor how COVID-19 misinformation was circulating on online platforms. So in this study, they found 2,300 reports of COVID-19 rumors, stigma, and conspiracy theories communicated in 25 languages from 87 countries. None of this misinformation is helpful, even if it's intended to be, and much of it is harmful. In some cases, it's lethal, leading to preventable death and injury on a truly tragic scale. Now, 800 people dead. Every single person that dies, it's tragic to the people that know them and care about them. I'm not saying it's not tragic to others outside of their main circle of friends and family, but let's just be honest. You know, we lose that many people in the United States to car accidents and suicide and heart disease on a daily basis. And there's plenty of misinformation out there about what causes suicide. There's plenty of misinformation about heart disease out there. And it's true. And I'm not going to say that heart disease isn't a problem. It certainly is. But let's just be honest. This number that they're going to throw out here shortly of 800 people in one particular situation, it's tragic, but is it worth this kind of attention? Is it worth this kind of honing in on and hammering down on a number when we're already dealing with what they consider to be this horrible pandemic of COVID-19? So, for example, a popular myth that consumption of highly concentrated alcohol could disinfect the body and kill the virus was circulating in different parts of the world. Now, watch how he does this. Following this information, approximately 800 people have died, whereas 5,876 have been hospitalized and 60 have developed complete blindness after drinking methanol as a cure of coronavirus. Okay, that's 800 people died, almost 6,000 people have been in the hospital, 60 had developed complete blindness from drinking methanol. That's bad. We shouldn't be drinking methanol, people. But look at this. That incident, centered in Iran, might be the worst example of infodemic-related death, injury, and misery, but it's far from the only one the team found. That's the worst. And so these 800 people have died from methanol-related alcohol poisoning. What does that have to do? And there again, if people are spreading information that drinking methanol is going to cure your coronavirus or prevent you from getting a COVID-19 infection, that's stupid. Methanol is not meant to be consumed. But methanol is going to kill you regardless of what the information is. And these aren't the first people that have ever drank methanol. Okay? People are alcoholics, and people who want to get drunk have been drinking things like methanol for a long time to do so, and suffering the consequences of it. So, yes, I'm sure there are people out there who have fostered this idea. But does that make, does that deserve to put in there again? Remember, the premise of this essay, whether this opinion piece, whether he wants to acknowledge it or not, Peter is building towards something here. In a similar event, claiming the lives of 30 people in Turkey, the researchers say while in Qatar, excuse me, let me rephrase that. A similar event claiming the lives of 30 people was reported in Turkey. The researchers say while in Qatar, 2 men died from ingesting neither surface disinfectant or alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that happened. But that's just stupid people doing stupid things. Is that an infodemic? And sure, maybe you can track it down and say that those people read that online somewhere. Okay. Those people would have done something stupid no matter where they read something online. Or no matter what they read online. That's what those kind of people do. And guess what? Stupid people follow stupid people. Doing stupid things, and doing stupid things leads to risk and danger, and people die. Remember what your parents used to say? If all your friends jumped off a tall bridge, would you do it too? Yeah, well, now we do. Bungee jumping. In India, a dozen people became ill after drinking alcohol made from the toxic Datura Seeds, having watched a video on social media that claimed it would boost their immunity against COVID-19. 5 of the imbibers were children. Okay, that too is horrible. But let's think for a minute. Is this the first time in the history of the Indian people on the Indian subcontinent that people have fermented the Datura seeds? I bet it's not. I bet it's not. And I guarantee you that this has happened in the past, well before COVID-19 became an issue. I'm not even going to look it up. If you want to disprove me, that's fine. But I guarantee you Datura seeds have been used in the past. In fact, you know what? I'll take that back. So here, this is just a very quick. I'm not going to tell you what the name of the website is, but they published this back in 2002, and they have explicit directions for how you can go through and grind Datura seeds into to distill it, to make alcohol from it, to ferment it. And but they also put right at the top, danger, do not attempt to do this project, it can cause death. Okay, 2002. This has been going on for years, people, for years. And I guarantee you, with the mystic history of India and the Indian religions, I guarantee you that this is not a one-time situation that's just totally and exclusively related to COVID-19, and that the Datura seeds, somebody just went out and did this and said, oh look, I found a cure, give this to your kids. And there again, I'm sorry, those kids are dead. That's horrible. Where are the parents? But at the same time, where are we as the United States when we allow literally thousands of children to be aborted in the womb through acts of infanticide by the mothers and the doctors that should be saving their lives? We're going to be really upset about this. Of course, not every dangerous fallacy about coronavirus leads to hospitalizations that make headlines. Yet, so many twisted ideas are out there and being shared. The researchers found which people suggest can kill, cure, or prevent coronavirus. Things like drinking. That's a very. Let me try that sentence again. Yet, so many twisted ideas are out there and being shared. The researchers found which people suggest can kill, cure, or prevent coronavirus. Things like drinking bleach. Okay. I'm totally against government overreach. I'm totally against what everybody thinks we should be doing in the sense of locking down and wearing facial coverings and all that stuff. I am never going to tell people to drink bleach. People have been suggesting drinking bleach for a lot of different reasons throughout the years. When I was young, AIDS became the thing that we were watching out for, and I heard people back then, without the internet, tell people, drink bleach. What? Are you kidding me? So now, this isn't the first time this has happened. People have done stupid things like this for years. Drinking cow urine and cow dung. There are individuals out there that have been doing that for centuries. Ingesting silver solution or spraying chlorine all over your body. So silver solution is also known as colloidal silver. There are health aspects of silver solution. It's impossible to deny that. There are healing and restorative and preventative positives to colloidal silver. Undeniable. Now, there are medical doctors and scientists who would deny that, but it's real and it works. We use it as an antibiotic on things. It helps. I'm not suggesting that it's going to immediately kill off coronavirus or anything else like that, but it does have its positives. Just because people are abusing it doesn't mean that it's part of some infodemic. Or spraying chlorine all over your body, okay? Stupid. But then again, we're also being told to bleach everything that we touch. I know people in their workplace that are required to bleach their workstations 3 to 4 times a day. It's mandatory. And I'll tell you that bleach, even in a water solution, is not good for you. And you knew this one was coming. In the midst of this swirl of misinformation, even relatively benign mistruths can become dangerous in the wrong hands, the researchers say. A church in South Korea, where a spray bottle was used to spray salt water among the church attendees, resulted in more than 100 infections among the attendees because of the spraying contaminated water. The team explains, describing an incident in which the nozzle of a spray bottle was repeatedly put inside the mouths of different members of the congregation without being disinfected. I tried to dig up the story. I found it. It said, the stories that I found said 50 people were infected. Okay, so let's say they were doing that because they thought it was going to protect them from coronavirus. Okay, that's fine. You knew they were going to come at a church at some point, right? So here's where it starts to really take a turn. The infodemic doesn't just perpetuate claims about false cures, though. It also has a lot to say about the origins of the coronavirus, how you can catch it, and racial aspersions about who's to blame. What? I'm sorry. It's not a racial aspersion to say that this virus originated in China. That's not a racial aspersion. It's the truth. Period. Period. Should we call it things like Kung Flu? Should we call it the Wuhan virus? I don't know. I don't see that that's helpful. But it's not a racial aspersion to insist that it came from China. It came from China. That's what it is. That's where it's from. So then, some from the long list of examples include coronavirus is a type of rabies. Mobile phones and IP addresses can transmit coronavirus. Coronavirus is an engineered bioweapon. How do we know it's not? Here's an assertion that people believe this conspiracy theory, and therefore, because they believe it's a conspiracy theory, it's automatically not true. We're never going to get to the bottom of how this coronavirus got out into the public. I'm sorry, I don't trust the Chinese Communist Party. The CCP is not to be trusted, period. At all. Coronavirus was made to sell vaccines. I don't know if I'm going to go there with that, but let's look at what they're doing. Coronavirus was manufactured by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Donald Trump, the CIA, and China. Again, I'm not going to necessarily blame Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I keep seeing information that they're tied to the lab where this was researched, but I don't, who cares, right? I don't know how we can blame Donald Trump for this one, or the CIA. And I can blame the CIA for some things. But we don't know anything about China. The only information we have from China is that it came from the Wuhan district of China, and they're blaming their wet markets. Okay. China admits this started in China. They blame their wet markets, which means they're blaming their own people, but we can't blame China for this. China can blame China in a particular segment of their population, but we can't blame China. Coronavirus is a population control scheme, and so on and so on. Okay, great. Don't buy into whacked out ideas. You shouldn't buy into whacked out ideas. Any more than we should buy into the theory that all life on the planet Earth was planted here by an ancient alien species in an experiment. But there are atheists, predominant atheists out there who believe that. They forward that idea. That's a whacked out thought. It's just nuts. Okay? You shouldn't buy into whacked out ideas. I don't care who's forwarding it. The researchers acknowledge a number of limitations to their study and point out that they didn't investigate or follow up on the information they discovered online, nor determine the number of people who believed in any given rumor or conspiracy. So what kind of study did you do? I mean, if you're going to go out here and you're going to do this kind of study, maybe, just maybe, you should do even more to find out how deep of an impact and how pervasive of an impact it is. Did the 800 people who died in Iran, or in that misinformation that surfaced in Iran, how far did that spread? How far did it spread into the rest of the Middle East? Did it spread into Southwest Asia? Did it spread into Southeastern Europe? Has it made it to the U.S.? Did it make it to the Philippines? Did it make it to Australia, Japan? Whatever the case might be. If you're going to go out there and you're going to throw this out there and say, look at how dangerous all this infodemic is, then you should go ahead and do the legwork. Not just go, well, we admit that we didn't, get all the information. That's misinformation. That's what it is. They're just as guilty of misinformation. But that's okay, because they've got proof that these things are dangerous, and it ties into what the whole point of this is. Nonetheless, they did find all this misinformation freely circulating on publicly accessible websites and social media, and there it is. There it is, people. That's it, right there. Freely circulating. They want clamp down on it. Shut it off. Get rid of it. No more of this thinking for yourself. Even if you're wrong, you cannot have access to this information because it could be dangerous to you. And is that the world that you want to live in? Where information is controlled based on whoever determines it's right or wrong. That's the heart of the issue. The coronavirus infodemic is out there for all to see, and that is a problem we need to actively counter, the researchers say. Misinformation fueled by rumors, stigma, and conspiracy theories can have potentially serious implications on the individual and the community if prioritized over evidence-based guidelines, the team writes. Health agencies must track misinformation associated with COVID-19 in real time and engage local communities and government stakeholders to debunk misinformation. So the findings are reported in the American Journal of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene. So just Think about this and understand that entire point of that study, the entire point of this opinion piece that's being reported as a news article, the entire point of that opinion piece is to discredit anyone who doesn't buy into all of the scare tactics and all of the hype surrounding COVID-19. Period. That's what it is. That's what it's for. That's the only reason that they're doing it. They want to shut down any information at all that doesn't toe the party line, that doesn't toe the narrative or go along with the narrative. That's dangerous. That's actually more dangerous than COVID-19. Because if they can shut you down, if they can strip away information from you or keep information from you, here in the Western world, they can control you. So that the only news source, the only information sources you have are state approved, state agency overseen, state information ministers and their underlings will now disseminate all information that you need. And you can sit here and say what you want. You can label me a conspiracy theorist. I'm tired of it. I'm so over it. One, I'm not the guy from the movie that you see with tinfoil on his windows. In fact, look at how big that window is. You see how big that window is? There's a window over there. It's covered for lighting reasons. There's a window behind me. That window behind me doesn't have any tinfoil on it. See? No tinfoil on that window. Okay? None. All of that being said, that doesn't mean that there aren't agendas. And there again, I'm fine with people having an agenda, but let's just be honest. We have an agenda. And the point of that study and the point of this opinion piece by Peter was we have to clamp down on this information. We've got to shut it down because we can't have you doing anything for yourself. It must be approved. And that's the direction we're moving, especially here in the United States right now. The move in the United States is to control information through certain agencies to make sure that you only get what's been approved of. And it's dealing with COVID-19, it's dealing with cultural issues, it's across the board. That's the whole point of things like deplatforming and the cancel culture. Period. And once again, is that the world that you want to live in, Americans? Is that the world, the state that you want to live in, my fellow Minnesotans? And anybody out there who's watching this from other places? Is that really what you want? Do you really want your information controlled by a very small, tiny group of people who determine what's good for you and what's bad for you? Sic semper tyrannis. As always, thanks for watching the video. Thanks for being open-minded. Thanks for listening. I would ask that over here in the corner, somewhere on your screen, you hit the subscribe button. It's important, not for me, but because mainstream media, legacy media, isn't going to get the word out. They're not going to let people who don't toe the established line speak. So for the sake of liberty and for the sake of the defense of this nation, small little independent voices like mine need to be heard, especially the interviews. It's got very little to do with my commentary and a lot more to do with the interviews and the people who are affected when liberties are tread on. So once again, hit the subscribe button, like, subscribe, and share. Thank you very much.